Hello, everybody. Yeah, this is a tough morning after the party, as always. So I will have a talk today with you about one of the things that is coming in Java 9, that has already arrived in Java 9. And we'll be talking about REPL, about how we can code differently and what is REPL about and what it gives us and how we can find it, useful. So, unless it works. Yeah, OK. We'll be talking about JShell, which is one of the programs, one of the tools available in Java 9 in the standard SDK. And we'll try to have a look at what we can use JShell for and how we can work with it. JShell stands for Java Shell. It is not JavaScript hell, as some of people might point out. And this is a standard read, evaluate, print loop. So this is a tool that we finally got in Java. This is exactly the same concept as we have in Ruby, CLojure, Scala, PHP, JavaScript, and probably all the other languages around the world. Now it's in Java. Woohoo, that's happy. It's not only the program, it's not only the tool, it's also an API, but we'll be digging into API that much in the beginning. So, what is JShell and why on earth shall we think and work with REPLs, like what it gives us? So the thing is about REPL is the initial concept behind Oracle introducing this tool was to aid learning, to help people learn Java. You might think how it might help anybody learn Java. If you have some experience with trying to teach other people how to program in Java, have you ever tried to explain to anybody how to start programming with Java? Anybody that did it? So there's this thing that stands between them trying to embrace the language and the language itself. It's usually called public class and public static void main. So you would like to teach people to do some useful stuff with their programming language, but what they have to start with is this public static void method. And you have to either tell them, yeah, don't look at it, it's not meaningful at the moment, which is not good from the learning perspective, or you have to explain the concept of objects very, very upfront, which is very useless for them. So REPL is trying to get rid of it, just remove this obstacle between them and coding. And then more useful, more subtle use case for senior, for experienced developers is that we can use JShell to experiment with the new libraries. And that will be exactly what I will be showing you today. How we can take JShell and get in the middle of either working program or working code, or without any IDEs, try out new things and and see how they actually work. We've obviously done it in Java for many years, but it has been either a simple class or a test that we use to evaluate and experiment with the new APIs, with the new libraries. And then what I use it for is rapid prototyping. It gives me this ability to real-time experiment with my code and see how it works and kind of build a mental model what I do really expect from the program and then move forward. When it's kind of development ready, when I know what I'm about to code, then I jump into the IDE and do the proper stuff. And finally, it has some integration with build systems, so it's very helpful. And I'll show it today. So what we'll be covering this morning before lunch is what is JShell in general. That's what you've seen. Some features, some Java 9 things that are coming new to the language. I will show it in REPL just to show you how you can use the tooling. And then we will build a very simple application directly from REPL with some web UI and so on and so forth, so that you can see how it actually works and how we can work with it. So it's kind of a showtime. I will just minimize it, and we'll go directly Damn it. We will go for. We'll go for shell. So what we will be having here is, first of all, we need to run JShell. Yeah, okay, it's working. So I am at the moment on the Java 8 version. I will switch to Java 9. Most of us don't have Java 9 installed as their primary IDE, but that's not the biggest problem. Now I'm Java 9, which is great, and I can run JShell. JShell takes a while to start. That's the hustle, but then we jump to shell, and we are prompted with shell. What we can do, we can just start coding Java. So we do 4 + 4, and it equals 8. What you can see is JShell takes everything you type in and stores it as a variable. We can then refer to variable number 1 and add another 2, and we have a next variable called $2, and it has a value of 10. We can obviously name those variables. It is integer I and integer I. And now it's named. So very, very simple, very simple stuff. We can go and see which is minimum, so whether it's I or number 1. And then we see that the minimum of those two is 8. As you can see, I already get some imports. I already got some Java classes. When I start shell, it starts with a set of default imports. So these are classes that are by default imported to my working environment. And then what I can also do is I can list everything I've already typed in. So I have a list of my interaction with the shell. Okay. Very basic stuff. So imagine that I am not fully happy with the 4th snippet. So JShell gives me this ability to edit, and I go say, I would like to edit the 4th snippet. What it does, sorry? Okay. What it does is open a very simple editor, a very ugly editor like this. This is not usable in a way, but it allows me to do something with my snippet. I won't do it like here because it doesn't make much sense. I can set up my own editor in JShell, which is vi, and then when I do edit the 4th snippet, I have the vi editor, and I can do something with it, like put 11 in here, and then save it and evaluate. As you can see, it just creates yet another snippet. So I can not only type in stuff, I can also edit what I've already created. So how we can use it to make and create some more useful stuff. So let's see what Java 9, for example, offers us. We know that Java 9 is coming with some new enhancement in languages. We had already a talk on module system, but I will not tackle that one. We already had some talks on the JDD about Java 9. And one of the things that is coming in Java 9 is, for example, enhancement in the Java util collection classes. So so far, we had this option to create, for example, an array list. We did arrays as list, and then we typed in some values, and we had an array list. What comes in Java 9, we get builder methods, which is, for example, list of, which is very, very handy, and we can do more or less the same. For example, if you've been doing web services, RESTful web services, JAX-RS, and you know this specification, you know that JAX-RS has this concept of interface application, which you might know. So let's create a similar one, and we will edit it. And this interface has a method which is set, which takes class of any type, and you have get classes. And this is a way for JAX-RS application to know which resources it should look after. So what we usually did in JAX-RS, we were using this application, we were extending this interface, and we were overloading the classes method. So what we were doing, we were taking application, let's call it A, and then what we've been doing, we've been creating a new hash set of type class, whatever, and then arise as list, and then listed some resources from our JAX-RS application, like, for example, I said it's math class whatsoever. That's how we used to do it, and it was quite cumbersome, but we are Java developers, so we are accustomed to this boilerplate baroque syntax. What we can do now with Java9, we can do application A and say, yes, this is a set of math, let's say class, and this is our resource. Fairly simple. So Java9 is full of this kind of small goodies that makes our life a slightly easier. Okay, and this is what you can use JShell for. Just evaluate and see how you can take those things and how useful they are. Also, for example, if we have this list of this array list, so we have arrays as a list, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a null, and 5 and 6. Let's call it like this, and let's give it a name. It's a list of integers called list. Okay, so we have this this list, and in Java 8 we have this concept of streams, which is very useful, but we know as Java developers it has some corner cases and some it was lacking some methods. So if we had this list and we would like to just list everything that is, we know that this list can contain a null value, and we would like to handle this null value gracefully, so optional is our friend. So what we did is we just mapped optional of nullable. Okay. So we have a list of optionals, and if I list, and if I do the 14, so the variable, the 14th, and just for each, I will do system out println. We will see that we have a list of optional. That's great. That's usually how we handle that. And then we see, well, but I don't want to have this this empty on my stream, on my list. So what we could have done, optional has this method called if present or is present, so we can filter everything from our list that is not nullable, is not optional of empty. But then somebody comes on the code review and say, well, that's not how you do it. You have the flat map method and just use the flat map. So we are Java developers, and we said we will flat map this. So we will take every optional we have on our list and either map it to stream of. However, it might be null, so or else we will do, or else we will do stream of empty. Okay, and then we'll have for each system out. Sorry for the screen flicking, but I have no control over it. I think I've missed brace before for each, yes. And now you just real life see one of the problems with shell, that it helps you with some syntax, but not always. So now we've eliminated the null value. This is great, but as you can see, this whole concept of mapping to a stream of and then taking an empty stream, it is the Java way. It is cumbersome. It doesn't really, it feels ugly. So is there a better way? Yes, of course it is a better way. In Java 9, instead of this whole cycle, what we can do is we can go and flat map this to optional of stream. Because if you look at streams and optionals, stream is from 0 elements to n elements, and it's kind of a continuous stream of values. While optional, it's a similar concept, but can have either 0 or 1 element. So a way to get from optional to stream and the other way around should be in the language itself, because it's really a helpful concept. Now we have it in Java 9. And that's how we can use shell to just see what else can we have within our language, just to experiment a bit and see how things are working. Okay? But that's a very basic concept. Let's do something more. Let's do something more meaningful. We can, let's call it, it's our session, so we would like to reset the JShell thread. So we'd go reset, and now we have an empty list of snippets. Like we've erased everything we've written so far. So what I would like to do at the moment is to build a very simple web application directly from shell to just expose a simple REST endpoint, like a full bar thing, so that I can experiment, let's say, with the new library. What I'll do is I would like to use a library called Spark Java, which is a very simple web framework that has a syntax which is a little bit like Sinatra from Ruby or Scalatra from Scala. A very simple way to build a web application. First of all, what I'll need is I'll need a set of dependencies, so a set of additional libraries that should be on my class path. I'll cheat a bit. I'll just copy and paste it. But there is this concept of environment in shell, and I can say, let's use class path and use this set of library on your class path. It adds new options and restore the state. So now we can see that on my class path we can see a bunch of libraries. We can do it as well through standard Java environment variable. So now as we have this thing on the class path, we can start working with that a bit. So Spark Java is a very simple framework. I have to import a class called Spark, and then I can do a service called HTTP, let's say, and then service ignite. Right. So my service should be working on port 48, for example, and then I can initialize it. And that's the API. As now you can see, I have a server running on the port 48. Let me jump into the browser. If I go to localhost, then I can see that localhost, nothing is there, which is great because I haven't yet defined anything. So let's jump back to shell and see what I can do. The Spark Java has the concept of root, which takes request and response and does something with the response. So I can define it and I can edit it. I will edit this root. As you can see, it's done interactively. So I'll have a very simple root like this, and I'll put response header application called JSON, and I will return a very simple string which is called. Sorry? oh yes, thank you. I'll get back to that in a second. So yes, content type. It would have compiled, but it will just return the wrong data. Thank you very much. So I have a content type application JSON, and I would write to return something as a very simple it is a foo, and it takes a bar. Yeah, I'm taking some shortcuts here because I don't want to go for a fully fledged JSON framework. So it's a very simple one. I'll save it and edit it, and then if I list it, as you can see, my root is already defined. So now I'll add an endpoint or HTTP GET. I said GET, and there'll be an endpoint called JSON, and it will take the root. Okay, so I've defined it on my application. If I jump back to a browser, it's JSON, and now I have my foo bar. So it's instant, it's constant, it's real time. I've added something, and I've removed something. That's how it works. Okay, so now I can reset everything. For example, it's clear, I think. No, it's stop. I can stop my HTTP, and now it's stopped working. It's done. I'm close. So this is also a way that I can take a new library and fiddle with a bit and see how it can work. What I can do is I can save everything I've written. So I have all these snippets in here, and I can save it to a temporary Spark.jshell. I've saved it to the local file, and then I can reload it with load, the load operation. No, it's open. Sorry. So I can open it again and run it through, or I can just leave shell, as I've done it at the moment, and I can, for readability reasons, I will export a class path I've already defined, and I can run this snippet directly from JavaShell. So I can do JShell, and I can say temp Spark. And the JShell will start and evaluate my whole snippet. Now it will fail because I haven't yet defined, as you can see, anything on the class path, and my environment class path, my environment is empty. But if I run JShell with class path parameter, which is class path, now it should work. So I can store everything in a file and then make JShell run it and jump in directly into the shell. So now I'm back in the situation when sorry, I just stopped. Yes. So try it again. I will remove, thank you. I will remove the stop part because it doesn't make sense, and try it again. I missed the terminal. Please always give me a shout when I'm talking about something and not having a terminal on, because there are multiple windows flying around and sometimes I forgot about it. So I have now the server is running. Okay. Yeah, that's my foo bar, and I can I can jump in and say add another get endpoint whatsoever and work live with an application. And I think it opens some really nice opportunities, because it gives you a way to bootstrap your application, to prepare the bootstrapping code of your application, and then run it from JShell and work with your application real time. And this is something we've been lacking in Java ever since, that yes, you could evaluate a snippet directly from your IDE, but it was kind of class path independent, and now you can bundle the whole application and jump directly into the middle of it. which is I think I found it nice. So I would like to take this concept of the Spark Java application, so very simple application, into a next level. What I've done in the background. What I've done in the background, if I've prepared a small snippet, it's a Java application, as you can see. And what it has, it's a way I've been always working with this kind of libraries. So building a very small public class or a public static main class, main method that runs my code. So I have a to-do application. To-do has 4 properties, as you can see. And then what I will be doing is I will be initializing the Spark Java application server and adding some code to that and running all my endpoints to fiddle with the to-do. So create to-do, get to-do, a very simple to-do application. Why to-do application? Because most probably all the problems we have with our application can be abstracted to a to-do, more or less. So I have, and this is a fully fledged, fully blown Java code. I can go to snippets and I can Java C it, so I can compile it with a class path. Yep, Java app, it should compile. Yep, and I can run it with a class path called class path. The CP variable is all the class path things I have, and it should be running. Yes, I have it. I have a running application, and we can go and see how it's working. That's my to-do. I can say create one to-do, and it's working, and it's stored somewhere, and I can delete it. It's a very, very simple application. However, if you if you look at this code, which I have here, so my Java app, Java, it's a very simple thing, and compared to what we've seen already in JShell, there is not much between this snippet and the JShell script that I've just created. So to avoid deleting some code, what I've just prepared is I've tuned that class a little bit to be a JShell script. So what I've added at the beginning, I've added the class path because of convenience, and then I have exactly the same stuff I used to have earlier on in my public static code. What is just removed is I don't have this class of concept anymore. So I just remove it. And what I can do is I can run JavaShell with this application. So I can run JShell and take the script. It will run it from the JShell and jump in the middle of the application. It takes a while. Yep, and I have it ready again. Okay. Yeah, I will refresh it, and I have an empty to-do list. But what I see at the moment is I have all those elements, all those snippets ready and available for my convenience. And what I see here is I've been using a very simple concept of storage. I have a queue, which is defined somewhere. I have a queue, a storage, which is oh, sorry. Thanks. I have a storage, which is a queue, and to this storage I can add a new to-do, which takes some parameters. It has an ID and to-do from JShell, and it will be the first one, and it will be completed. So I can add a new element. So now you can see storage has a simple element, and if I jump back to the page and refresh it, yes, I have that to-do created in the shell somewhere totally independent of my IDE. And that opens yet another opportunities that I can tune in my application programmatically, which is in real time, which is something that I haven't been able to do earlier on. But you might say that this is a very simple application, and what we do in real life, we don't fiddle with these simple concepts unless we do microservices, because they said microservices are simple, but they aren't easy. So what we will be looking after, and what I'll be looking for, is a way to take JShell and take my complete application, no matter how huge it was, and jump into the middle of that. And we will have a look into that now. I will just leave this application as we see. So I'm leaving. Whoop! I went one Control D too far. Okay. So the workspace, slides, Java9. That's the beauty of live coding. Everything can go wrong. And I have a folder called Maven, and this is Spring 5. So I've created a very simple Spring project, Spring 5 project, because I've heard that Spring 5 is going to be released. Because all nice goodies, new things we'd like to experiment with. So I've created a simple Maven project, which has a dependency on Spring, and that's the only dependency it has. And what I would like to do is I would like to run JShell with all those Spring dependencies. And what I'll do is I'll take my Java home and go with Maven package JShell compile, which is a JShell plugin for Maven. And what it does, it just takes my whole project, do the standard Maven thing, and then evaluate or run JShell with my class. And now I am in the middle of build process with my JShell running. And if I go with environment, I can see my whole Spring framework isn't there. So I'll set up an editor. You can do it. You can do it also by default. You can set up a default editor. I will set it now to Vim. And what I would like to do is, I've heard that with Spring 5, you don't need any more annotations to define your beans. You can go annotation-free, which will make Jarek Ratajski happy, but he's not over here, I think. So let's see how it can work. Let's define two classes. So I'll define public class foo and a public class wrapper. Two very simple entities. I'll cheat a bit copying and pasting a body, but that's only because we have limited time. So I've edited a foo. And my foo will look like this. It will take an argument of string and just store it. Simple as that. So, sorry? Public, OK. Thank you. You know, this is the beauty of pair programming. Like, taking to extreme. So I have the foo, and I have the wrapper, which I will also copy and paste to save us hassle. So I have a wrapper, and my wrapper is taking a foo class and just displays the text, just to see that two beans can communicate with each other and can be dependent on each other. So what I would like to do to set up a Spring framework programmatically, I would like to import some Spring libraries, or some Spring classes. That's the one at the beginning. I am importing annotation, but I am not importing annotations to use an annotation, but in annotation package there are some useful utility classes that I'll be using. So first of all, we need to set up Spring context. So I'm setting up a generic application context, which is something which is well well known. And in past times, what we had to do is we had to either define our beans with annotations and pass it to our application context, or have an XML file that defines them whatsoever. What we have in Java on Spring 5, we can do context register bean, and then we can say register foo class and take a supplier, which is a new foo, which takes an argument bar. Okay, so now we have a bean registered. And we can also take the wrapper, so we can take register bean, and we will take a wrapper class, but we will say that it has a bean definition of bean definition set scope to prototype. Okay. So we now have two classes which are dependent on each other. We'll refresh the context, and I will do context get bean wrapper or get bean foo. I'll take foo class, and now I have a foo bean under variable. I'll take 11, and I can do the text. That's the bar. That's my bean that I've created. So let's take the context called get bean wrapper class, and we will see that it's actually dependent on the foo class, which I've created earlier on. That's text from the wrapper. It's bar. So let's redefine the foo. Let's register bean a foo class. And do hello supplier new foo. Whoa, that can nobody expects. Well, my JShell just blown away. Sorry for that. I'm slightly running out of time, so I will not repeat it. It was JShell compile. Okay. I can bear with me for a second. I'm using not the latest, not yet released JDK, not the latest, the official release. It is still the generally available preview. That's simply because I've started preparing this talk before the official release, and I haven't yet tried whether there was some incompatibility. So I will load the snippet. I should have it, so I can open a snippet. Maven Springs. So now it's reading my file. It refreshed the configuration, and now you can see I have all those beans already defined. I can create. I can edit what I've already created. I am editing the wrapper classes. Not like this. I'm setting editor to Vim, and I'm editing the wrapper class, and I'll edit this. Yeah, the system out from wrapper foo text. Okay. And now, if I do the context register bean foo class, I can take new supplier, new foo, hello JDD, and then if I take get bean for wrapper, I should have another. I should have another bean, yet another bean, because it's a prototype. So I've built a very simple Spring dependency injection without any annotation, without even running IDE, totally embedded into the JShell. So this is pretty much my use case for JShell. This is what you can use it for, just experimentation. There are some ideas to take it forward. There are some, you cannot yet jump into the middle of your application just to fiddle with your production code. It's not there yet. This is a first kind of installation. What we already have, there are some extensions with, for example, JMX. So you can connect your JMX server application with your JShell. What you can do is there are some experiments with language servers protocols, so you can communicate between JavaShell or between any IDE, any text editor, and your Java REPL. So there are some ideas how to take it forward to make it closer to what are usable REPLs, for example, like in CLojure. If you would like to fiddle it on your own, all the snippets and examples I've been showing are available on GitHub. There is a set of snippets that will kind of drive you through the whole presentation and let you experiment on your own with the shell. And if you have any questions, now that's probably the time. Thank you very much.
It's time for questions. Anybody have questions? OK, so thank you very much, Jakub. Big applause for him.
Thank you.